morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Are you? Jolly good. Well, it's a cold and frosty morning here in paradise. And I decided to sit in my car and let it defrost itself, and then I decided that was a stupid idea. So, especially as I've left gloves and a scraper inside the car for this very eventuality, so I've defrosted everything. That droning you can hear in the background is my wheel bearing. Still haven't replaced it, so I'll have to get around to doing it at some point. Probably wait until the car grinds to a halt and catches fire and then do it then. Who knows? Anyway, my first day back at work yesterday. Whee! My first day of my second career as a dentist. They, on the plus point, the GDC has given me back my old number, so I am still dentist 56227. On the other plus point, they didn't charge me anything to put me back on the register. They've charged me $890, which I think is what I would have paid if I paid in December anyway. So really, not any financial penalty is any shortfall on the January takings. Poor old paper shop. I drive past them now. I used to buy 2 papers from them every day, and I've had to knock it on the head because we've got a moratorium on buying anything until we get through the end of the month. It's terrible, isn't it? Terrible that a professional person with 35 years experience, who spent over 5 years qualifying in a medical profession, has to give up, has to struggle to get through the end of a month running a single-handed practice. But I think that's just the way, you know, the state doesn't want single-handed practices, and unfortunately in this country we get what the state wants, you know. I'm still bullish about private practice. I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, obviously I did a lot of stuff yesterday that loose ends, you know, I tied up a lot of loose ends yesterday. So like that young girl who had a big swelling in her lower left E, which was a retained lower left E, and it needed root treating, and I couldn't do it, and she wanted to have it done before she went back to school, but I had to tell her that I couldn't do it. I told all the patients I had the flu. And that's because you have to be careful with rumours with a dental practice. My mother got one of those ride-along battery-powered buggies. She could walk. I mean, she only got it in case she ever needed it, and it was cheap, you know, someone was sort of giving it away. Because you have to catch people when their relatives have died and they don't need these things, and they don't want to spend a lot of time mucking about selling them, so they pretty well give them away pretty low price. So she picked it up for next to nothing, and then she asked me to test it out for her, so I went round the block once, and then for the next few months people were coming in saying, oh, I heard that you'd lost the use of your legs. And I'm like, no. People thought I was confined to a wheelchair. So, you know, I don't know. There was another local dentist who forgot to pay his ARF, so he's in exactly the same state as me, I suppose. And the only difference is that we found out that he'd not done it because another dentist told me. Another dentist said, oh, you never heard about this. I forgot to pay his ARF, and so now he's off the register. And this was the exact dentist who the staff had just told that I'd got the flu, because we didn't want to tell him that I'd forgotten to pay the ARF and I was off the register, because we knew it'll be around the profession. It's such a small profession. This is the only problem with coming this way. There's loads and loads and loads of little, you know, a lot of problems with it. It's very narrow, so you get 2 wide things going past each other, and the whole thing grinds to a halt. Someone's having their septic tank emptied. We don't have an angry septic tank, we have a soak away, which is a smart way to do it. You don't even need to have it emptied, it just sort of drains away. And I think historically, if that's how you've had it, you know, like if your house was built in 1820 or something, which is what ours was, then you can get away with just letting it all drain away. So you have a cesspool, not a septic tank. So in fact, around here, if you have a septic tank and you have a new septic tank installed, what happens is you get it installed, and then before it's filled up, you get into it and you bash some bloody great holes in the bottom of it so that it does drain away. So well, that's you know, highly unofficial solution to the problem, but I've heard more than one person tell me that's what they've done. This is the problem, isn't it? I mean, with ridiculous rules, you get ridiculous behaviour. You know, the rules encourage the behaviour. This is why, you know, the old rule about on the NHS, we used to send people to the hygienist for scale and polish, and then they said that no, this is, you know, they put the fee down on the scale and polish, hoping that fewer people will get referred, because the fee is lower. And so what happened was that nobody referred their scale and polishes to the hygienist anymore. They just did them quickly in the surgery at the same time as the checkup, which actually increased the profitability and increased the number of scale and polishes, but vastly decreased the integrity of the service. You know, you pull a lever expecting to send a train to Hull, and you send it to Crewe instead. And thereby, you know, by putting limits on septic tanks, you effectively make everyone destroy them, so that they turn into soakaways. Anyway, I ended up doing this root treatment on this girl, so that's all finished. I'm tying up like loose ends, things that really should have been done. Patients who've been disadvantaged from not having their treatment done 2 weeks ago, and had to wait 2 weeks, and having it all done now. And the GDC sent me through like a feedback form, you know. So again, good for them. So they gave me my old number back. They didn't charge me extra for being readmitted to the register for paying 1 minute late. And they sent me a questionnaire. So there's 3 things they've done right. So what do you do when you get a questionnaire from the GDC, especially when you're as well known and as outspoken as I am? It's a problem, isn't it? What do you do? What you want to do is really tell them what you think about them, don't you? And if they had any sense, they would want to be told what you think about them. I mean, what is the point? And this is the whole bit. These feedback things, are they, you know, you say, oh well, the GDC sent me a feedback thing. But is that a good thing? I mean, have they done that in the spirit of what that is supposed to be all about? Every business, the most difficult thing to get, and it's so difficult that a lot of dentists never even bother asking for it, is what exactly do you think about us? What do we do well? What do we do badly? What do you really think? Don't just say, oh yeah, you know, because you know when you get a meal in a restaurant, and they come round, don't they, and they say, look, in America they do this properly. In America, the server will serve your food and she'll say, look, is there anything else you need? Just ask, I'm just over there. You know, I want to make sure you enjoy yourself. And you're like, that's great, that's great. You want to make sure I enjoy myself. Not like in the UK, where you just get your food dropped in front of you and that's, you know, is that what you ordered? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, all right then, have a nice day. In America, they've got this culture of tipping, I think, which then encourages this ethos of this proper service ethos. And then the waitress will then come round a bit later and say, look, how's it going, guys? You know, is it a special occasion? Blah blah blah. Was the toast hot enough? Is there anything else I can do for you? Is anything not perfect? You know? and you don't mind. You say, yeah, well, as a matter of fact, you know, any chance you could get me another egg or something? And they'll say, yeah, they're fine, I'm happy to do it. Just tell me whatever you need, you know, and they go. And then we've tried to copy that in the UK, haven't we? We've tried to copy it, and like, so they've got this rule, they go to Frankie and Benny's, and I'm like, I don't know however long it is after you've started the meal, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 30 seconds or something. The rule is, go back to the table, say, hi guys, how is it? Is the meal okay? Is the meal okay? And that's all they say is the meal okay? And you're like, yeah, okay, it's a meal, you know? And they want to get away as quickly as possible. They're just like, is the meal okay? Yeah, fine, okay, thanks. I've asked, you've answered, box has been ticked. So, what use is that? You know, it's no use to you, is it? You're like, and because we're British, we're like, oh yes, very nice, thank you very much, yeah, stone cold and not what we ordered, but yeah, very nice, thank you very much. So, oh god, I've opened a can of worms now. So the GDC sends through this thing, and you have to ask yourself, I mean, is it a genuine, you know, really, I mean, honestly, how well did we do with that? You know, we were trying so hard. How did it go? How did it come across, you know? Or is it just the, is your meal okay type questionnaire? And I'm pretty sure, and I know you know what I'm going to say, I'm pretty sure it is just was your meal okay type questionnaire. We've got to send you this questionnaire. It's pre-programmed to go out automatically the day after your application is approved, when presumably you're going to be in a good mood, and you know, just give us a bit of feedback, but preferably we're going to be monitoring these, and so what we'd like is tick, so that when we report back to the committee on feedback, we can say, yeah, we've got a satisfaction level approaching 100%. Aren't we fucking excellent? They don't want to know what the feedback is. They just want it to be good feedback. So there's a thing on there, and of course I've told them, because I can't stop myself. I have this, it's a disease. I don't know, there's not even a name for it yet. But I've got no filter. I will tell them. They ask me, I tell them, you know. And I don't care. I don't care at the moment because I'm back on the register. I don't know whether in 3 years' time, when I forget again, they'll remember that I was the bastard that criticised them all. And it won't matter because they're so hidebound by this statutory requirement. They'll still have to consider my application fairly within the 10 bloody days they take, and put me back on again, you know, because they live by the sword, they die by the sword. So anyway, I told them I actually made some extremely positive, very useful comments, which they would do well to take on board. I said, there's no point sending me 6 reminders in September. What I need, and every dentist who hasn't paid needs, is 1 reminder on December 31st. Okay, you send 6 reminders. By the time we get the 4th reminder, it goes on the pile with the other 3 reminders, doesn't it? Because you don't intend to pay when you get the reminder. You intend to pay on December 31st. That's when you need the reminder. If you haven't paid by December 31st, you need the reminder. Nobody needs to be told that they've got to pay their AR. We all know we've got to pay. I have paid my ARF 37 times. Don't tell me I need to pay my ARF. That is of no use to me whatsoever. Anyway, that was suggestion 1. I didn't write all that, but... What was the second thing? Yeah, I said the Dartford Tunnel. The Dartford Tunnel, right? You used to... Oh, I've told you all about the Dartford Tunnel. Anyway, the point is that they extended the deadline for payment because people found it too difficult to pay on the day they went through the tunnel. So they made it midnight on the day after that you've been through the tunnel. So I think that they should extend the deadline to midnight on the first working day of the new year, because if you haven't realised that you haven't paid your ARF by the time you go back to work, then and plus you've had a reminder on December 31st, then you either died, retired, or you don't intend to pay, right? part of the reason why I forgot to pay on December 31st was I hadn't been at work since December 22nd. My mind was not on dentistry. My mind was I was over my brother-in-law's. My mind was on, you know, him coping with the weekend at my brother-in-law's and the upcoming celebrations for the new year. It was not. My mind was not at work. You know what I mean? I hadn't been at work for a week. I had successfully relaxed. I had successfully taken my mind off work. Unbelievable. You know, for a week, for the week at Christmas and the week at Easter, you are the only 2 weeks of the year that you can successfully, if you try hard enough, take your mind off work. And bearing in mind, I was called out on Christmas Day, right? I mean, this is how difficult it is to get your mind off work. In the summer, you can't get your mind off work because you're constantly worrying about the fact you've got no income coming in August, all the staff are on holiday, and who's doing your emergency service. So that's really sort of a working holiday in the summer. But the Christmas and New Year and Easter, you should at least try and get your mind off work, okay? This is what I found when I had my career break in about 2004. I found it took me 3 months to wind down. And that was from 23 years of working in general practice. It took me 3 months to wind down. So what the hell chance do you have of winding down in a week? You don't. You know, you're doing really well just not to be thinking about work. The alarm's still going off on your watch, you know, your phone. You have to try quite hard to, you know, you're still waking up at the same time in the morning. So my mind wasn't on it. So that's it. So give people a break. Give them a deadline. Don't be so bloody anal about the whole thing as well. I said this is why pencils have rubbers and cars have bumpers. People are not perfect. It's human error. Okay, we all forget. But I forgot once in 38 times. I forgot to pay my ARF once, and they treated me like some bloody dentist who'd had a 20-year career break, or some junior, you know, resident of the European Economic Area who wanted to apply to work in the UK. We are not all the same. There should be, and I said that there should be some fast track to getting people back on the register if they are already in practice. If they're already in practice, there should be a fast track to get them back in practice. And the last question I asked them was that, you know, if my daughter, who's a pilot, can go along to the CAA in Gatwick with her logbook and her medical certificates before 10 o'clock in the morning and get her license renewed and be back at work the next day, what the are the GDC doing for 10 days? What are they doing? Well, if I had to assess one of these applications, I could do it with a bit of practice. I could do it in 15 minutes. I kid you not. I kid you not. If it's a totally routine, no communicable diseases, vaccinations are self-certified, up to date, CPD attached, what is it? What are you going to do? All you can do is check the arithmetic. Just check the arithmetic. Have a quick shuff through the certificates. Tick, yeah, that's tick, yeah, that certificate. You tick that, tick that, tick that, tick, yeah, okay, he's got the verifiable, he's got the verifiable. He's okay on the medical. And has he got a registrable qualification? Yes, he qualified in the UK. Does he need to have done vocational training? No, he qualified in 1981. Okay, 15 minutes, fucking rubber stamp it. But no, 10 days, everybody 10 days. And I think they set these targets low because then they can't fail to exceed them, you know. And that comes back to the questionnaire, doesn't it? I mean, what was the point? They said, do you want someone to follow you up and ask you, about any of these inquiries? And I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? Why not? Why not ask that you at least do me the courtesy for £890 of giving me a phone call? So, and telling me why you insisted that I put down for every book I read what month and what year I read it, whereas when I put down that I read Dental Practice magazine, or the dental magazine's like 100 hours in 5 years, you didn't want to know what month and what year I read those. That's totally inconsistent and illogical. And yet, you know, and I don't think it held up the application. I'm not even going to say that. I mean, they still did it in 10 days. But So I can't say that stupidity added a day on to the acceptance. It may have done. I mean, I may have got it back in 8 days if they hadn't done that. I don't know. But they did it within the statutory time limit. So what I can't know, can I? I can never know that. But my first question is going to be: look, to what extent does the feedback you get and the feedback that I give you influence anything? Is there any point me telling you? You know, is there any point? Are you going to change anything as a result of anything I tell you? And I think the answer is going to be no. I think there's going to be, someone's going to come on, probably fairly high up, some senior, you know, the manager of registration department or something, a senior manager, and say like, oh, Mr. Watson, we're so sorry to hear that you know, weren't completely happy with our service. And I'd just like to spend 20 minutes of your time explaining why we're right and you're wrong. And in any case, there's no discretion because we're a statutory body, it's the law. And I'm not going to waste 20 minutes of my time. When they ask me for feedback and then they want to ask me whether I would like a response to my feedback, the response I want is whether or not my feedback is going to make the slightest bit of difference. It's not at all... sorry, I'm defrosting myself. Still, I'm doing it too. Defrosting so much I've got a red hot nose and ice cold feet. Yeah, so I mean, when my first practice, patients used to park out the front. It was on the main road, and then they went along with a bloody lorry and put double yellow lines along the front, all along the road. And I said, well, what's the idea? And the idea was that people on the bus could get up the road quick without the bus having to stop. They wanted to make it a highway, you know, like a place where you couldn't park, so the bus could get through. So all of my patients were inconvenienced for the sake of a few people on a bus. And they said, look, you know, it's only a proposal. You can always ring up the council if you like and protest, you know. Like the council doesn't know how to handle protests. Like the council doesn't have a, you know, this is what you do when you get one of our 10,000 petitions every year, stick it in the bin. This is the bin. This is the bin for the highways petitions. This is the bin for the yellow lines petitions. And I said, and the bloke said, you know, you should put in an objection. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to. He said, well, and then he was a bit sort of like, oh, I don't know why you've rung then. If you're not going to protest about it, you know, not going to form a residents' action group, if you're not going to start a petition, why are you bothering ringing? I said, because it's going to be absolutely, I know it's going to be absolutely no point whatsoever. It will be a complete waste of my time. And the yellow lines will go ahead anyway, and who's that going to help? You know, how's that going to help anyone? And he was like, oh, I'm sure, you know, I'm sure that's not right. I'm sure, you know, you do make a difference. And I'm like, really? Well, I'm not. I've never heard of anybody protesting against a bypass or a set of traffic lights or anything that made any difference at all. So I think the evidence rather supports my version rather than yours, you know. He didn't like that. He did not like that at all. I'll never forget. The tone of his voice was like, well, you know, all his notions of democratic accountability went out the window when he heard that the population weren't sold on the same principle, that they felt that they'd been disenfranchised. So I should just say to this guy from the GDC, you know, is it what's the mechanism for putting all my brilliant suggestions into practice? And they'll say, oh well, there isn't really a clear one. we don't do what people like you say, you know. This is a feedback questionnaire. It's not about doing what our customers want. This is for our statistics. It's nothing to do with how we work. I think you've got the wrong end of the stick there. Okay. Anyway, if he rings up, I'll let you know what he says. All right. Okay. Bye for now. See you tomorrow. Bye.